Welcome, everybody, to the Jurassic Park Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Jost, and today we are going to be discussing full spoilers. It's up there on the banner, on the video, on the podcast. You can't see that, but there is a video. If you want to watch along, you can. We're going to be talking full spoilers on Jurassic World Chaos Theory. All 10 episodes are currently live over on Netflix from DreamWorks Animation. Great show. I had so much fun watching this. So if you haven't seen it, though, please go watch the show. Come back, reboot this up, and then listen to us talk about these full spoilers, because we do not want to spoil anything for you. There's a lot to dive into, and I don't want to ruin the experience for you, so please stop this if you have not seen the show. But we have a lot to discuss, so let me go ahead and introduce my good friend, Tom Jurassic. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you, man. I'd like you to call me Microbanks for the rest of this recording.
Microbanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's I just ended up putting that in the notes because a character said that name one time, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go with that from here on out. Not look into it any further. I didn't check the credits, didn't look into anything else. But yeah, we have a lot to talk about. But before we do that, I just wanted to send out a huge thank you again to DreamWorks for letting us watch this show early to help us, create content for everybody out there. I feel like I get a lot of comments when when we get like access to the show and we say like, oh, how cool it was, or if it was good or bad or whatever. People are like,
Yeah.
wait, how did you get to see it? And I'm like, well, we put in a lot of like a year's worth of time and energy into, building up this show and letting DreamWorks know that, we can cover this in a certain way. And they give us that opportunity so far throughout all of Camp Cretaceous and Chaos Theory now. So we really, really appreciate that. Again, thank you so much to DreamWorks and everybody over there.
Yeah. I do just I want
Any
to say
words?
on that quickly, Brad. As a part of that as well, we really wanted to this time around sort of push a little bit of extra content out as a thank you for the extra development time. So from this Monday through to the Wednesday afterwards, we will be releasing consecutive short form video on Instagram, my Twitter, the podcast TikTok, and also as YouTube Shorts, just to put a little bit more content out there, and kind of tap into that excitement around this show a little bit more, because I think people are going to be excited for it. We're excited to talk to you about it. So hopefully we can play, our role in encouraging those conversations and actually getting people hyped about what's a really awesome show.
Yeah, dude, I think it was a great show, and it gave us a lot to talk about. And we've done, spoiler-free episodes, and now we're doing a bunch of spoiler content because this is a bingeable show. Like, they're shorter episodes, so people can kind of just get into this within like 5 hours or so and just get through every episode and then have to wait for however long, hopefully, for a season 2. But if it's anything like the previous show, hopefully we get like a pretty quick turnaround, and then we'll have 5 seasons within a year. That would be nice.
Oh my god.
So what should we start with? I mean, I don't know. Do you want to go with the big stuff? Do you want to kind of slowly work into it? What do you think? Where should we go first? Because there's a lot to discuss.
My vibe with this conversation is you feel free to hit me with whatever headers you want, and I will give you my thoughts on that header.
Okay. Well, let's start off, I guess, with the biggest piece of the puzzle, right? For a long time, we've been wondering, well, not a long time, I guess, but since the trailer came out, we've been wondering, what's up with Brooklyn? Is she dead?
Yeah.
Is she actually gone? Is she, and a lot of speculation as far as like, does DreamWorks have the nerve to kill off a character like this? There was so many conversations, I think, during Camp Cretaceous that, they will never kill them off because they're the kids. And rightfully so. They should never have killed off any of them, throughout Camp Cretaceous. But they've grown up. They are adults now. And I guess it's fair game. But, she was on the chopping block here throughout the entirety of this show. They lead you to believe that she is 100% dead. And then it kind of gives you a little twist at the very end. There's always a twist at the end, Tom. I don't know if you've heard that before.
Oh wow, yes. I'm so proud of that reference right now.
There's always a twist at the end.
Doctor Who, I love it.
Yeah, you gotta be watching Doctor Who to understand. But we see Brooklyn at the very end alive. She's communicating with that
Wait,
agent
we do?
from. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Did you not watch the rest of the show? Oh, I'm so sorry. That's why I tell everybody to get out of here. That should have included you too. So that's a shame. I'm so sorry. But yeah, we see her alive at the end, and we see she's got a new haircut. She's chatting with that DPW agent that we saw like towards the beginning of the series, which was a big surprise. I didn't expect that. And she's missing a hand. She's good old like comic accurate Rick Grimes, you know. She's a little bit of like Anakin and Vader and
all of this,
you know.
So Anakin and Vader as well. So we've got Star Wars, we've got Doctor Who, we've got Walking Dead. If you can make a MonsterVerse reference at some point now, then we're pretty much on point. And maybe sprinkle in some Ghostbusters, like, you know, at some point in time we thought maybe her ghost was going to appear in a library, but then it didn't.
Yeah. We're going all in on the references today. That's the only thing I know to do. I cannot speak outside of podcasts. So I can barely do it on a podcast. So I can't speak outside of it. And when I do, it's just movie references. So my wife sent me a picture today, tangent, of a big like castle looking place. And I was like, wow, that's beautiful. Looks like the X-Men live there. And I couldn't even just get away from any kind of reference in a text message. So but anyway, Brooklyn is alive.
Brad, we're gonna have an intervention after this call.
Yeah, I know. Give me your thoughts on Brooklyn being alive, that whole situation, what went down with that character. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so to be honest with you, I kind of had a feeling that they weren't going to kill her off. Just because the role that she plays makes so much sense for driving this story forward. Like, having an investigative journalist is really the ideal sort of vessel through which you can explore a lot of the themes in this first season, you know, corruption, dino trafficking, all of those sorts of things. So it made sense that she'd factor back into it. I think a lot of the stuff that we see, so we learn that she has a secret home at a point in the story, and we learn that she's got a bag of lots of money, potentially millions.
There's a lot of money
that was given to her by Daniel. So we find out that she's working with Kenji's father, who we will talk about more later. And the whole idea here is that she's potentially buying and selling dinosaurs illegally, and that Daniel, although he wasn't involved in it at this point in time, she had basically gone to him and said she wanted to get involved in dinosaur smuggling, but he wasn't sure about it. So what I really think that is this kind of journalist going to an extreme to try and get a story right. You see it all the time in the real world. You see people who will work hard with like organizations that are doing nefarious things to then get inside that organization, and then they're trusted to report on it, all of those sorts of things. So it seems like she is playing as the bad guy to get access to those organizations. So that sets a really interesting potential precedent for a second season and where she factors into that. What I'm most curious about with Brooklyn, though, is how long has she been doing this for? And has the other DPW agent been involved the entire time? Because as you rightly say, we see that agent in episode 1 with Darius, and she's almost trying to dispel Darius from pursuing the Allosaurus that he thinks killed Brooklyn. So my immediate question is, has she known this entire time that Brooklyn isn't dead?
I know. I was wondering that same thing, dude. And also actually, no, bear with me. I don't remember the exact details of, and I don't think they showed us the text message, like who it's from, who it's to. So we don't actually know that she knows she's chatting with Brooklyn, right? She could just be chatting with somebody else. Like she doesn't know who it is. It could just be someone on Dark Jurassic or something like that, right? So I guess, they don't, she maybe not be like covering things up, this DPW agent. Like she might not actually know, or she might know, like, because the kind of like you're just saying, the way she's acting a little bit, getting Darius to step away. It could just be a nice, like, I'm just trying to give you some advice. Please don't do this. You're going to get yourself hurt, just like your friend. Or it could be your friend's alive. Please don't get into this because you'll find out later. We'll
Yeah.
save it for another season. You'll find out later. So she could be playing it both ways. I don't exactly know what the truth is there, but I love that this show answered so many questions for us, I think, but
Mm.
also left a handful of things that can lead us into like another season. So we have like a kind of a different angle to start discussing things going into the next season. Like what's up with all that money? Is she,
Mm.
gonna be on the side of getting her hands dirty here with, well, not Daniel, but like other people like that, spoilers. But yeah, there's a lot going on with this character, and I wanted to, and we do have a conversation coming up with, not tonight, or not in this episode, but in a few days, a conversation with Scott Kramer again and Aaron Hammersley. And I didn't want to ask them that stuff straight out because it's kind of like, I know they're not going to tell us like what those answers are.
Yeah.
So, but yes,
You
I did
should
ask
just
them
be
like
like,
about the
look,
future
can
of
you
Brooklyn,
show
but
me season 2 right
yeah,
now? And I
let me
won't
see
tell
it.
anyone.
Which character is named after me this time? That's all I need to know. I had to ask them that question.
It's so funny
Um,
you've made that reference because I just listened to that non-spoiler episode this morning. And it was like, it was
yeah.
getting to the end and you just weren't subtle with it at all, and it made me laugh
Oh
so
no.
much.
No, I just tackled it straight on. I was like, is this named after me or not? What's the deal? And I actually had like a lineup of actual legit questions still that I wanted to ask, but I got the signal, one more question, and I was like, let's cut to the good one. So there's a lot, I think, at least for Brooklyn to discuss, and we'll probably touch on a lot of
Yes,
those
and
points, I think.
there's a really interesting point here actually,
Mhm.
which is the kind of work that Brooklyn's doing is the sort of work that we would expect the DPG to do. So Claire, Franklin, Zia. But I think there's a really compelling reason here as to why they're not, and that is something that we'll talk about, which is the corruption in the DPW. Because if you're Brooklyn, you see one institution that's been completely corrupted and is doing the wrong thing, and presumably she understands that from all the information she's got about them, then why the hell would you trust somebody like the DPG when you'd think that it would just be the same case all over again, potentially?
Yeah, and I think at this point, with Dominion only months away from this story, we do see at the start of Dominion, we see Claire and Zia and Franklin like doing their own kind of version of what I think maybe Brooklyn's kind of getting herself into.
Yeah.
They're actually getting themselves on the ground floor, extracting dinosaurs themselves because maybe nobody else is helping them out with this situation. So I think it'll be interesting to see how all these things kind of correlate as the time goes on here. But let's see. So that's Brooklyn. Let's talk about. Well, I guess we'll talk about Daniel just a little bit because we mentioned him.
Mm.
I was first off a little shocked that Daniel showed up in this show to begin with. I didn't expect him to be in this at all. There was a lot of people
I called
asking
it.
before the
I said he
season.
could come back as a villain.
Yeah, and kind of. I mean, he was, yeah, he was like, he wasn't like an overarching villain or anything, but he
No.
was he was a shady guy that was still had some feelers out for things going on, and definitely was about to like backstab his own son, which was pretty brutal.
Yeah.
And yeah, he didn't want to give up any of the information about Brooklyn until Kenji basically became the CEO or something like that of his new operation, whatever that was. And I thought that was pretty messed up. And luckily, he had a change of heart and I guess got the information out. But brutal guy, they killed him off. They killed him off in a pretty messed
Hmm.
up way. Like that was kind of shocking, to kill off this character that has a really interesting and dynamic relationship with his son. And I was all for it because I think it gave that character a bit more weight. I mean, he already had it,
Yeah.
throughout the end of that show. There was always something weird with his dad. But like he's this rich kid and we didn't really think too much of it, but um by the end of it, you're like, okay, this guy's a bad guy and his son has to deal with this. And now he's got the trauma of all of that, of having this dad who's been in jail for 5 years, and then also now having to deal with his dad being dead, and it's a whole thing. Like, so I love that they gave that character a little bit more sense of depth because he was kind of surface level, I think, throughout Camp Cretaceous.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool because you kind of see this character who's still quite manipulative initially, and is very, very calculating. And like you say, you kind of get this sense that he's trying to build up this business again. But then ultimately, it boils down to just being a father who wants to spend more time with his son. And I think that's really interesting because when you see that character break, I think the feelings that he has for Kenji are quite clear. And so then that obviously makes it harder for Kenji because you almost have this sort of reparation for their relationship and this real actual bond in a father and son fashion for perhaps the first time that Kenji's ever had that, and then it's yanked away from him by the arrival of the Atrociraptors. So
Mhm.
it's quite brutal. I think it's a fitting end for Daniel though, because obviously these are animals that are intrinsically connected to dinosaur smuggling, and that's something that he was involved in Camp Cretaceous. So you smuggle dinosaurs, sooner or later one of those dinosaurs is going to get loose and it's going to cause problems for you.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty emotional at the very end when the car's driving away and Kenji's like looking out the window and he just says "Dad" in Japanese. I thought that was
Mm.
pretty emotional part. So I appreciated that. It gave me a little bit because like I think up until this point, Kenji was an interesting character for me because first off, we know that he has a new voice actor this time around.
Yes.
So there's a little bit of
Doesn't
like
sound particularly like the old Kenji.
no, yeah, he didn't. Yeah, Darren Barrett or Barnett, he did a great job, I think, as Kenji, sure, but like you could tell it wasn't the same actor. It wasn't what was it, Ryan Potter,
Yeah.
which we did hear about some pay issues or something like that. So, but to each their own. It's good that he's getting his money elsewhere. So, this time I was like, I was a little thrown off by the fact that like it was a different voice actor. It didn't necessarily feel well. You know what it felt like to me? It felt like Kenji had no growth. The
Yeah.
second we re-meet him again, it felt like there was no growth. All these other characters, Ben's like a totally different guy. Darius has got
Go
like
on,
he's a
say
deep,
your
deep
description for
voice.
Ben. Say your description for Ben that you go with
He's
every
hunky,
episode.
dude. He's hunky, dude. And Darius his voice has changed and it's so deep at this point. I'm like, whoa! The second he started talking, I'm like, dude, this guy's old now. And Sammy's out living by herself, and Yaz is changing the world, and then here is Kenji, who's like, he's still kind of like, he's felt like a kid still,
Selling dino
and
stickers.
yeah, selling his stickers. He's doing some what do you call it? Rock climbing and stuff like that.
Mm.
So he had somewhat of a growth, but I guess like not. It just didn't feel as big as the other ones. So yeah, it was a little weird of a character, but I did get a little bit more attached to him, I think, as the show went on. But we're
Mm.
talking like, what was that? Like 5 or 6, like. Episode 5 was when his dad died, so it took a little while to get there. And this is the second dad who's died in this series. So if there's a
It's
third
just a running
series,
theme.
yeah, you watch out whoever
Mm.
else has a dad out there. But any other thoughts on like Kenji or Daniel or anything?
I just think it was handled quite well, really. I think by making the decision to do that at the midpoint, it kind of sets the tone really nicely because you get this character that we know from Camp Cretaceous killed off, and then at the same time that happens, that's the first time that we see microbangs with the Atrociraptors. So it kind of angles it really nicely as sort of introducing her in quite a sinister way.
So yeah, let's get this straight. At one point, I think was it Kenji maybe or somebody mentioned like what's up with this creepy like microbangs lady or something like that. So that's where this nickname
Brad,
I guess
I
comes
didn't
from.
realize that was where the nickname came from, and I've called her that in every piece of content I've put together.
Yeah, that's where it came from. So it was from the show. I didn't check to see if it was in the credits or anything like that. But yes,
She
this
probably
character,
has an
dude.
actual name in the credits that we've just
I
completely missed.
Hey, I'll tell you, I don't know if it's a secret or anything, but I did ask them, Scott and Aaron. So tune in a few days, and you'll hear the actual answer. I'm not going to spoil it here, but when this character popped up, this is the Atrociraptor, person who, like, the entire time leading up to this show, we saw the Atrociraptors, and we all thought Sayona Santos. And oh, what did
You
you
say we
think?
all
No.
thought
Come
on our
on.
prediction episode. I said I thought it might be somebody else involved because
Okay,
Soyana would
all
have
right.
just trafficked them, not looked after them. And then I felt the pressure from everyone
Maybe.
else, so I backpedaled on it.
See, yeah. The interesting thing about that is when you said that, I do remember you saying that, and then I rewatched that episode or that part of the movie, and I don't really know what her role was, to be honest, because she could have just been trafficking them, because she was selling them off or trying to pawn them off on a new group of people, like the
She was
undercover
trafficking
agents.
them, I think.
So she was trafficking them, but she also felt like a handler of sorts, because she knows how to operate these things. She's like doing secret moves around her head and like pointing lasers, and so she knew what she was doing. It wasn't like they were just
lady.
yeah, it wasn't like she just picking up a DoorDash delivery for somebody and dropping it off.
Is
So
that all these dinosaurs are to you, Brad? DoorDash.
no, there's plenty good to come from that, but I just think it wasn't like she was like a middleman. She didn't just have nothing to do
Yeah.
with it. She actually had something to do with it. And this character that pops up, not Sayona Santos, and is so creepy and instantly gave me some sort of reaction. I don't know if
Let
it
me
was
do my
like
impression. I can do my impression.
okay. Oh gosh. Oh, that's creepy, man. All right, can you please stop your impression right now? Because the podcast listeners have no clue what it is. It's just me talking. But very creepy face. Thank you, Tom. And this character has like some sort of connection with the Atrociraptors, even more so than Sayona Santos ever did. So this to the point where she's kind of like cradling them at one point and kind of like connecting with them in that way. And also in my notes here, I just wrote down different communication tools. So it's like not the lasers that I was just talking about. So it's the whistle, which has like a few different cues. There's like a longer cue. There's like the 3 shorter cues to like attack and stuff. So it's pretty useful, I think, and probably better than the laser pointer, I would think. It's a little bit cooler, I think, than the laser pointer.
Yeah.
I think because we had a laser pointer in the previous movie with Fallen Kingdom, right? There was like this, wasn't it some sort of laser pointer thing with the gun, with the
it was interesting, 'cause
Indoraptor?
It's basically just a infrared laser that would be on a gun anyway.
Yeah, so it was like that, and then we got the Atrociraptor one, but now we've got a different communication tool. So I appreciated that. I thought that was pretty cool, and I thought this character was just infinitely creepy, something we've never seen before in this universe. Straight up, just like an alien. I honestly thought it was an alien. So
I remember you saying that. Actually, so I'm gonna hit you. I'm gonna blow your mind a little bit, Mr. Jost.
Oh, are you?
What I would love. I don't think it would happen, because I think it would be too deep a reference for them to make it in this kind of show. But we have seen acoustic behavioral training before with the Velociraptors in the Ibris program and the clicker. So I would love if they were like, yeah, this is an evolution of the work that they did at Jurassic World. We were able to recover some of the documents around that, and then we made these Atrociraptors specifically to train. I think that would be really cool. And what I think is going to happen, and this is me putting a prediction out on the table for season 2 or season 3, I think that what will happen is essentially these Atrociraptors will get transferred to Soyana Santos, but in the process, biosyn will be involved in some capacity to change how they respond. And I think that whatever happens with these animals, for them to go from being owned by microbangs to being trafficked through the Malta black market is going to be the incident that Dodgson references on the phone in Dominion, where he says he didn't like what happened last time with Santos involved.
Okay, I like where your head's at. I definitely
See,
like where
I
your
don't
head's at.
need my notes to hit these points, Brad.
Wow. Okay. All right. I'm gonna close my notes right now. Next up,
Open your notes.
let's talk about those Atrociraptors though some more, because I love what you're thinking, and that line that you just mentioned about like I didn't like how that was handled last time or whatever. I completely forget that line, but it reminds me kind of like the dynamic that was like at the end of this series with like with this character, this Microbangs character, and how Dudley Cabrera was like, like I thought I told you not to. To do. I forget exactly how it went down, but it was like,
I thought I told you not to come back.
Yeah. So, which I thought was interesting because that was a conversation that like prior to that, Darius or somebody was like asking him questions and like asked him like, oh, well, what about the Atrociraptors that you had after us? And he's like, what Atrociraptors? So he was playing so dumb.
He wasn't.
That
I
was
don't think
confused.
he was playing dumb. I think he wasn't involved in that at all. So what I think you've got happening is I think there's him involved in this dino trafficking, and I think Microbangs and whoever her and Jensen were working for is trying to manipulate that further and get something else out of it. So I don't think they want Cabrera or Cabrera even to be a part of that process. I think they're trying to do something shady, and that's where I think it's either Soyana Santos pulling the strings or it's somebody like Dodgson.
Yeah, I wrote down the entire quote here. It was like, what are you doing here? I told you to stay away. I'm not cleaning up any more of your messes. In fact, this isn't working out. You're fired. So that very much sounds like that quote that you were talking about from Dominion. So I wonder if it's just like an ongoing theme with these Atrociraptors and their handlers or whoever.
Yeah,
so,
they're just causing messes all over the place.
Yeah. So I thought that was pretty interesting. But yeah, and I didn't mean playing dumb as in like I don't know, but like I just meant like he doesn't know at this point, but he's also, I feel like if he doesn't, he knows these Atrociraptors exist and he knows who is operating with them right now. So like the way he's like, what Atrociraptors? Like I've never heard of Atrociraptors. I don't even know what you're talking about. It's kind of weird. So I thought by the time that happened and then he goes up to her and fires her and knows all about her, I was a little confused at the relationship there.
I don't necessarily think that he does know about the Atrociraptors, because at no point does he say the mess he cleaned up before involved them. So what I reckon is she used to work for or be involved with the DPW.
Okay. So, all right. So she worked with him at some point and made a mess.
And then clearly something happened. He got
has
annoyed.
nothing to do with the Atrociraptors. It's just they came after the fact. Okay.
Well, yeah.
I can get with that. I can get with that.
Let's say the Atrociraptors are still somehow connected to Soyana and the rest of the black market, right? Maybe the DPW has their trafficking operation going on, and she was constantly trying to connect them with other shadier people, and he didn't like that. So that would then make sense as to why they're now saying, well, actually, there's somebody else we report to who's telling us to do this.
Yeah, so they have, what was it called? The broker or something like that? Do you remember that? Was that the name that they used?
I think so.
Yeah, the broker. Jensen mentioned the broker and then got eaten by the Allosaurus. So these two contacts. Oh no, the one contact is alive. The Microbangs person is still alive out there. Just wrangles up those Atrociraptors. They are all broken and bruised, all of them, and they all head out.
It's really interesting, actually, because I didn't pick up on the name the broker specifically, but that makes me think it is definitely Soyana Santos, because that's literally what she is in Dominion. She is the person who the dinosaurs pass through to go from one owner to another. So she is a literal broker. Or it could be that it's somebody else from potentially, say, Lockwood Manor, throwing my hands in
Yeah.
the air for absolutely no reason. Maybe Anton Orlov. It's not like he's appearing in any other projects that are coming up, but just, potentially characters like that could be connected to it.
Yeah. Yeah, we have no idea, but I can't wait to see at least like what the heck unfolds here and who's connected to who and who eventually leads up to Biosyn. I'm
Mm.
hyped for that. But I think they've done a good job at like establishing different levels of organizations here and the DPW, but then the DPW has their people that have infiltrated and are not, they're shady, but then there's another organization outside of the DPW that's even more shady. So it's like, and then
Yeah.
outside of that, you probably have Biosyn or something. So
Hold up. I've got the reference, Brad. I've got the reference. It almost feels like Monarch, where you have so many people doing different things within the organization and you don't know what's going on where.
yeah, I like it. I like it. Well, I forget what those characters' name was, but there was that one character who had the sister who, well, never mind.
Oh, Duvall. Yeah.
Duvall. Yeah. I feel like that character would fit well into this storyline here. All right, so the Atrociraptors, again, going back to them, can camouflage now?
It's interesting. I go back and forth on this.
Yeah.
I think so. Your other note around the Atrociraptors is that there's only 3 of them, and I think that we do. You're right that we only see. I think Tiger. I want to say Panthera and not Red, and then Ghost. Or if it's
Mhm.
not Panthera, it will be Red. But we definitely only see the 3 of them. But in that that first episode, actually, at the nighttime, their patterns do look very different. But part of me is just wondering if that's because it was darker.
Well, here's the thing. So, in one of the episodes, I guess after that first attack, Darius and Ben are kind of like, "Oh my god, did you see that? Like, did they
Mm,
camo? Like, what was going on here?" They were kind of like going back and forth with a few theories, and one of them was like, "Ah, man, I'm wishing I saw the or I had the note here." But they were like, "Oh, it kind of makes it look like there's more of them than there actually are." So I thought that was
yeah.
kind of interesting, and it like made me go back. I was like, "Wait, were there only 3 in Dominion? Like, did I mess that up?" And I was like, "No, there was actually like 4 crates." But I thought that was interesting. So they were kind of speculating on the camo
Mm,
aspect, right? And then the fact that that makes them seem like there's more than there are. But there was that episode at the nighttime or wherever where they were like stepping on things and turning around things that it
mm,
really looked like it changed their color only for like a second and a half, 2 seconds. It was very fast. So it wasn't much of like a great camo feature, I guess, on these animals. But I thought that was pretty interesting and something that
yeah.
we never uncovered, at least in Dominion. So
It's something I definitely need to look back at it because I didn't pick up on the conversation points or the actual
mhm.
visual change. So I want to look back at it. But it's interesting in terms of its place within the lore because there's 2. I always feel like I get on a high horse in these, and I'm like, oh, the lore. But I've invested so much time in this franchise that I really
So
care about the lore now.
I
I
wrote
feel
it.
like
I wrote down the quotes for you since Ben
okay,
says, "Didn't those Atrociraptors look different?" And Darius is like, "Could be camouflage, like the Indominus was." And Ben says,
yes,
"Makes it seem like there are more than there are." Darius says, "Or they adapt to their environment to help with hunting." And then
yeah,
Darius also says, "It's just dinosaurs being dinosaurs." That's something else. Never mind. But so that's like the quotes back and forth about
yeah.
the Atrociraptors. So I think that was interesting. Whenever there's like
I think to
interesting
that
quotes like that, I just write them all down.
I love that so much. I think to that point, it could be the Indominus, but equally, I would almost bet money that this is a nod to the Carnotaurus from the Lost World novel. It just because that is in nighttime, that whole sequence with the Carno in the novel. So it would be a
Mhm.
really cool little reference to it to just be like, yeah, can they camouflage at nighttime? And it's just like that Carno, where for whatever reason, that was an ability that InGen animal had. Thinking about that as something that the Atrociraptors have got sets a really cool precedent for what they could do with them in the future.
Yeah. So I think that's probably all I have on Atrociraptors at least.
Mm.
They were all pretty bruised up, so they have to come back, heal up. I'm sure we'll
Do you
see them
know,
again.
I tell you what though, Brad, there is, I'm going to do an incredible transition for you right now. There is
Okay.
a really interesting sequence at the end of episode 3 where they fight a returning animal from Camp Cretaceous.
Bumpy.
Well, that transition almost worked.
I wanted to make it as awkward as possible. So yeah, Bumpy's back, right?
Yes.
We get Bumpy back at the ranch where Sammy's living. Seems like a surprise to the other two characters, and
Yeah.
just the first visual that we get of Bumpy is kind of just roaming free, running around on the ranch. It just gave me the vibes of like whatever that scene was in at the end of Dominion. Wasn't there like a
Yes, where there's the
Ankylosaurus
walker
scene?
looking out across the Ankylosaurus going across the
Y-
field.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it just gave me vibes of that. It like looked exactly like that. So, and I remember thinking that back then. I was like, "Oh, is that Bumpy?" Like, but it was very cool that they're really channeling these minute moments that we got throughout Dominion and expanding them
Yeah.
into things that we really wanted. Like we've talked about so many times about getting these dinosaurs in natural habitats in the United
Yeah.
States and stuff, or wherever around the world. And this show's finally giving us that, with different species and different places. It's really, really cool.
Yeah. I really love how they handle this as well with like the mundane farmer encounter. So it's essentially this scenario where Bumpy gets loose and is damaging his crops or whatever, so he gets annoyed. And I just think that's such a cool example of taking what is a pain point for a lot of people anyway. It's not beyond the pale for farmers to have problems with their neighbors, and then just inserting a dinosaur into that is such a cool concept. So I really love how this show does that. I know we'll talk about it more later with some of the other scenarios, but I just think this is kind of fundamental dinosaurs in our world building done very well,
Yeah.
where it's taking a scenario that could happen anyway and sort of thinking, but what happens if a dinosaur's there?
So I'm having a hard time feeling any kind of sympathy for that farmer Carl, because
Yeah.
there's very, very clear references to, he's got a certain kind of hat on. He's acting a
Yes.
certain way to somebody from the LGBTQ community. So I don't necessarily feel like he's the best kind of role model out there.
Do you
So
know what I did? I picked up on the hat color and I was like, "Oh,
yeah,
is this saying what I think it's saying?"
yeah, it's definitely doing what everybody's thinking. And so, I mean, the guy died at the end, so that's not great. But I guess he died, right? Like I'm
Yeah.
assuming he got eaten by an Atrociraptor or
Other
something.
peaceful alternatives are available.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, so that was a interesting confrontation at least. And Bumpy it has her own little journey throughout this series too. Eventually gets caught up by the traffickers, and interestingly placed into a crate that is marked like deceased or something like that.
Oh, that's so morbid. I absolutely love the fact that they included that detail. The
Yeah.
DPW, the way the assets are exiting their system is they're marked as deceased dinosaurs, and nobody questions where they've gone.
Yeah.
That's just so intelligent,
know,
and it
so
reeks
brutal.
of something that would happen in real life.
Yeah, and just the way that it was all uncovering, I felt like those kids, and I was like, deceased, like what is going on? What does this mean? Oh my
Yeah.
God, I get it. Like, okay. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And then it kind of sends them into a tailspin because Bumpy's also not acting perfect and is
Yes.
kind of like a little sick looking, and
At one point, I was like, "Oh my God, are they actually poisoning the
they're
dinosaurs?"
doing it. Well, it was interesting because like the way that they set out that moment in time, like they are all upset that she looks sick, but then the two of the kids like understand what's going on, and they're like, okay. So like at that point, you kind of understand. Maybe it didn't hit everybody right away, but like I was like, okay, like I know what's going on, but they still kept playing it off as she's sick and she's literally dying, to which she almost looks like she's dead. Like she passes
She's literally
out and
lying
is
there
like, basically not breathing. Yeah, and then the kids are like, oh, she's gonna die. She's dead. And no, she's not dead. And the kids like come out behind her, like they're just like
Yeah.
basically in tears and upset. And then boom, an egg. There's an egg here, and I thought that was nice. So Bumpy
Do you know what?
survives another day.
It took me for a spin for a minute because seeing an animal as large as that giving birth to an egg, I was kind of sat there like, what? And then I was like, no, I think it is accurate, but what?
Yeah, it is so weird. It's very, very strange. Just to kind of think of that happening. But yeah, she laid an egg, at least one. I mean, we only saw the one. And Kenji mentions, he's like, it's got speckles on it. So I thought that was pretty interesting the way he mentioned that. And I just felt like that's going to be the name of this baby. Dinosaur is Speckles, just because that's how they kind of go about like naming these creatures. They're like, if there's one feature about this dinosaur, that's what it's called. You know,
all I would say is don't bet any money on that, Brad.
Oh, okay, all right. Why not? I can't bet money on that. I was heading to Vegas. I was gonna. Oh. Okay, all right. I won't do it. Anyway, Bumpy's fine. Bumpy's safe and is going to be looked after by Mateo, I guess, was going to kind of like just make sure she gets out okay or whatever.
Who just deserves a shout out for being the coolest character introduced to the show ever.
I gotta say, I loved that character. I loved how paranoid he was. He was really funny. But the best ongoing gag of this show was him just saying something out of nowhere and everybody being like, ah, what? Oh, you're still there? Like, that's the funniest thing. I kept cracking up every time. It was very funny. So I got a kick out of that. He's like, there was the one point where they're like, all right, are we all in? Well, I'm not in. And everybody's like, no. This nice guy that they are all kind of not treating greatly, but like he's doing his best. So I appreciated him.
Yeah.
Let's talk about another interesting character. Bobby Newbar.
Tiger King? Oh yeah,
Tiger King. Yeah, Dino King, whatever they called him.
Dude, I was not ready for this. Oh my god. When he walked out, I was literally like, okay, so we are doing Tiger King.
We're just doing it exactly like Tiger King.
I was like, okay, we're just going for it.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I think was Camp Cretaceous coming out during that period, back during like the pandemic and stuff. So that was like prime pandemic viewing back then, was watching Tiger King. You know, the pandemic just started and like Tiger King hit Netflix, and that's all everybody watched. That was it. And we were all hooked on this show. And what better way to kind of showcase the American tradition, I guess, of just like, finding something, it's yours, it's mine now. I'm going to, make money off of this thing. And then just doing this guy again in the Jurassic universe. So
I've got such a funny idea for you. Season 2, right? Have a background news story where it's Bobby Newbar goes to court and Amanda Kirby takes his dinosaur.
Let's do it, man. I like that idea. It's unfortunately so realistic and like something you would absolutely see as a roadside attraction. And it was very sad, like it looked like this place, this Bobby Newbar's Dino King place, was probably like a legitimate place that just had like things to take pictures with and like food to buy or whatever. And then he decided, I'm going to become this big entrepreneur kind of guy. And I just found these dinosaurs. I'm going to expand on my franchise here. And the way that he did so was like so upsetting because he had like 3 or so.
It was,
what were they? What was it called again?
Stygimolochs,
yeah. He just had them all like shackled up and just they were like malnutrition and tired, and it was bad. It was brutal, and it showcased how things would be if somebody really did that.
being your critical friend for a moment, your Bobby Newbler impression was very close to your Owen Grady impression. But
I
apart
don't even
from
remember what Bobby Newbler sounds like. I just kind of like just took a guess.
what I really like with this show more broadly is, on a serious note, it doesn't shy away from showing the darker side of humans'
Mhm.
interactions with animals, and I think that was a really important plot thread through Fallen Kingdom and Dominion, right? Because you got some animal welfare campaigning as a part of those marketing campaigns. So I think it's really cool to see how this show kind of tapped back into that and was like, yes, you're going to have your amazing moments at waterfalls, but also equally you're going to have horrible moments where people are exploiting these animals. And I
Yeah.
think that's a really, really grounded example of storytelling. But also this I really like the world building here, and it's a weird observation, but the inclusion of the gyrosphere, because that is very much like Lowry's t-shirt in Jurassic World, which is the
Yeah.
idea that somebody is risking their lives to go and get these relics from the island as a form of like danger tourism and danger profiteering. And that's just such a real world concept, right? Like, I mean, you look at Chernobyl, for example, how many people travel into the exclusion zone despite the fact that it's still quite dangerous. It is a very real world phenomenon. So there's something quite cool about them layering that into the story a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I do just want to
Yeah.
take this opportunity to, on a separate note, say I do have another mind-blowing moment planned for you on one of these bullet points, so just brace yourself.
Okay. I'm always ready
Yeah.
because you do it probably like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times, 10 times an episode. So but yeah, Sammy and Ben, I like how they kind of came together and they're like, free the dinos. Yeah, we're gonna free
Oh,
the
dude,
dinos.
we've got to touch on the Jurassic Park reference as well, with the wooden gates
Oh,
and
with the
the
banner and
when
yeah,
dinosaurs ruled the Earth banner. That was quite a
I
cool
love
touch.
that. Yeah, it kind of
Yeah,
showed that like this guy was probably a fan. Like he heard about
yeah.
this. He probably like read up. He was
He's
kind of like
Lowry's long
Lowry,
lost
and
brother.
yeah, and then he just like paid a bunch of money to go get a gyrosphere, parked it in there. Oh, that'll bring a ton of people out. Like, yeah. So I love the idea. I love the idea, and I love that
Mm,
they busted out the dinosaurs, and the dinosaurs fought back and basically destroyed his whole setup. So
yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, was there any other like let's talk about some more, I guess, dinosaur interactions then, because um, we
Yes.
also
Oh,
had that
yeah.
gas station, which was a nice moment
Dude.
as well. You have a guy that, like, at this
Tales
point,
season 1, episode 1.
there it is. They copied you.
It was like, yeah. No, well, I mean, I used a sticky monologue, but no, it's I love it because when I thought of writing that, I was thinking, what is the most like mundane everyday location that you could have an encounter with a dinosaur? And a gas station or a petrol station, if you're in the UK, you go to like every day, right? If you're driving a car, or every few days. So I don't think it's every day, but I don't drive, so
That's
you
how
can tell
cars
I
work.
don't have
Yeah.
the working knowledge. But
Oh
like
gosh.
the idea of just encountering a dinosaur at that really mundane everyday location is so awesome. And I love the fact
Yeah.
that it's not even doing anything dangerous. It's literally
It's
just
just
slumped
sleeping.
there.
Well, it's great because
Yeah.
they're like in a desert like setting, and there's no shade in the desert, and there's one bit of shade under this,
Yeah.
canopy for the gas pumps, and it's just trying to sleep. It's just trying to rest for a little bit. And I love that it was like such a normal interaction, and
Yes.
the different approaches, right? The kids were like, "This is fine. Like we could sit here and pump our gas, no problem." But yet the guy's like, what do I do? Like, so he was like very
Yeah.
thankful when the kids like saved the day. So I thought that was really cool. Just a interesting way to see how the people are kind of treating these kinds of scenarios. So,
Yeah.
um, I like that part. And then it eventually gets broken free, and it almost blows up the whole gas station, but it
Yeah.
goes off with its family again. So nice, Nasutoceratops family. Is it the same family?
Yeah.
Do you think?
I mean, they all look like adults, so that was a quick growth spurt.
Well, no, not really. I mean,
No.
Battle at Big Rock was in 2019, and this is
Oh, wow. Okay.
2021, 2022, like in that range. So,
Yeah.
because
Oh,
Dominion
yeah,
was
100
2022, so
percent then. It's
yeah,
totally the same
they've
family.
I don't know. Yeah, they've driven far, or not driven. They've walked far,
Driven.
but they
Mm.
maybe they were picked up and dropped off. Who knows? But yeah, so I thought that was a nice
That was a job
interaction.
Matteo didn't wanna tell the boys about.
That's true. Yeah, he didn't want to say that one. We also had another interaction which I thought was really nice was the Parasaurolophus like
Dude,
glowing
I was
off
so
that
happy
cliff.
seeing the Parasaurolophus Lux back. Like,
Yeah,
again, I don't want to just make this me drawing comparisons with Tails, but the reason why I wrote that Halloween special is because I thought having glowing dinosaurs in mainland USA would be so cool because people would be
it
so
is.
confused by what the hell they were, and like having it in the show is just awesome. And the idea that
Yeah,
they all gather at the watering hole just as like night shifts because they know that that's when their bioluminescence kicks in is so awesome.
yeah. We also got towards the end, actually at the very end, we got a big battle with the Atrociraptors. There was the Allosaurus
Mm.
and Big Edie, right? So Big Edie was
Yeah,
part of this battle. So I like that they're like, was that Big Edie? And that's all
yeah.
we have to go off of.
They
But
cleverly don't
um,
confirm it as well, so they kind of leave it up in the air.
yeah, oh yeah, they trust me, they
Mm.
do. And yeah, I thought that was clever and a really awesome fight. I know a lot of people don't love the dinosaur battles at this point after getting them so often, but
Mm.
like I love that this was kind of a new take on the original Jurassic Park fight.
Yeah,
You've got the three raptors against
yeah,
the Rex, but we're gonna add in that these are maybe even more dangerous raptors, and that the Allosaurus is brought into the game too. So with the very like Claire like introduction from Jurassic World, I thought that was pretty cool.
yes.
Um,
Do
but
you know
the
what gets absolutely obliterated during this fight, though?
uh
The poor,
it's-
poor Suchomimus.
oh, did it? I forget. Oh no.
It
Oh
literally,
no.
it like runs in and then it goes behind some crates, and you just see a shot through the crates of I think it's the Allosaurus coming down and killing it.
Oh man.
Yeah,
So sorry, Jurassic Souls. I
yeah.
apologize for that.
You've been
Uh
waiting for so long, and they did your boy dirty.
Oh, what a shame. But, yeah, it was great seeing that Tsukumimas too. That whole sequence had a lot. There was like just a generic raptor in
Which
there.
yes, yes, we need to talk about that. So we spoke about this a little bit. I think what it probably is just a reference to Manticore Island and the fact that there were generic InGen style velociraptors on that island. But equally, the idea of it being an InGen velociraptor from somewhere else in the world is really
Mhm.
an interesting concept in itself. Because obviously, with the live tour, we know that InGen's only operation wasn't on Isla Nublar. There were operations elsewhere. So I like the idea that that's sort of up in the air and that could be from somewhere else if they ever wanted
Yeah.
to do a story with it.
Yeah, it literally could be from anywhere. I think that's really cool. It does show that, like, Big Edie was on that island, and Bumpy
Mm.
was at one point. They got Bumpy off, and they got Big Edie off, and then now they've got these, other raptors, and I think the potential is like wide open. Those like
Mm.
what were they called? Spino? What were those dinosaurs? Those hybrids?
Ceratops?
No,
Spinoceratops?
is that what that was? Is that what it was? Okay,
Yeah.
there was two of them, Angel and Rebel, right? Like, where are they?
Watch
Like,
me
they
be
could be out
saying
there.
this so confidently, and then everyone's going to be like, that's not what they were called.
I don't remember, but yeah, they could be anywhere in those crates or already
Yeah.
pawned off somewhere. Like, they could be like you could sell those things for like a ton of money. That would be really really cool.
Yeah.
Well, not really cool. That would for somebody who wants to buy dinosaurs illegally, that would be really really cool. Not for me. I don't want to buy it. But
If you've got dinosaurs for sale, hit me up.
but there was like let's see, a few others that we had. The Allosaurus that we just mentioned was just making havoc like
Yes.
all over the place, which I thought it was
I think
awesome looking.
there's a brief moment with it in the cage in it's episode 10, I think, when Darius goes to get it, and I'm sure he has a line of dialogue that confirms it is the one from Battle at Big Rock.
Uh, I don't remember, but I don't remember if there was anything there, but there was a Big Rock mention in episode 6. So, but I don't remember if there was any confirmation in that moment. Maybe. But yeah, it's definitely that one. It's all, you know, it's blind basically in the one eye. It's got scars all over it.
I promise this is the last time I'm going to talk about Tails. I promise. But
I thought it was going to be the last time you blow my mind or something. I was like, no way. I don't believe it.
No. One of my biggest concerns coming into this was that whatever story they told with the Allosaurus was going to kind of screw up the timeline of Tails, but it works so perfectly because at the end of episode 6 of Tails, the Allosaurus gets captured. You can then think in your head, okay, it then gets dropped off to kill Brooklyn and then gets recaptured later on, and it works perfectly. So I was so happy.
Yeah, that gives us more information than the motion comics did, because we were last left off with that Allosaurus just like attacking a tree or something, and that was the end. It never fully realized what ever happened with that, and I thought that was like, okay, maybe those got canceled for this. Maybe is that the reason?
Yeah,
because it was so abrupt. We all were like, oh, it's just canceled because nobody liked it. Maybe they were like, oh wait, we got to start using it, so get rid of it. Bring them back. You heard me. No, please don't. All right, so
guys, I've done it.
I thought the Allosaurus was awesome. It was a very terrifying villain throughout this series. So that was really cool. And just you knew it had that history, right? You knew it had the Big Rock history.
Yeah.
You knew it had the Brooklyn history, whatever went down there. But there even was a mention that like the Atrociraptors were the ones that killed Brooklyn. So it's a messy game out there. We actually got to see a little bit of blood at that crime scene, basically. So, but yeah, any other? Oh yeah, there was the Beckel Spinax. We should probably talk about those because they came out of nowhere and attacked that Dino free zone, and they were awesome. They were really cool.
They were, and I also find it really interesting. So there's two things to say on this. The first is it's cool that we get two of them because we very rarely see more than one large theropod in a sequence. So it was awesome getting two of them like facing off the kids. But the other thing is the way, I can't remember if it was Scott or Aaron who answered your question about this, but the way they were saying, oh, they started with the list of the auction and the Arcadia, and then at points they were introducing new dinosaurs, it almost made me think, like, was this on the list of dinosaurs that were on the Arcadia, or is this one of the new ones they introduced? I wasn't quite sure, but it was interesting that he said that at some point they have to explain where those are coming from, because it seems like consciously they're aware of it, which is quite exciting to think about.
Yeah, and I think it's all going to come back to Biosyn, right? Just making dinosaurs, releasing them into the wild, and then profiting off of that. We've talked about this, Tom, out in the open before.
Don't do it before I finish my Tales from Jurassic World, please.
Well, we got some. Who are you paying, me or Scott or Aaron?
Scott and Aaron can have £2.50 each.
What else do we have? Do we have anything else?
I really hope that this and I get a message now, like, please pay your £2.50.
Where's my $2.50? Yeah. There was the crates that mentioned that these dinosaurs are getting transported around the world. So I wanted to pinpoint that it said Malaysia, Netherlands, Saudi Arabia, Malta.
So are you sitting comfortably, Brad?
Oh man, you're looking at me and you see me sitting. So what do you think?
So there's a couple of things here, a couple of interesting references. So, like you say, Malaysia, Netherlands, Saudi Arabia, and Malta. So, Malta, obviously, we know is connecting to Dominion and the black market, and we've already seen that. Netherlands could easily be a nod to the
Argent.
cancelled John Sayles script
Oh,
and
okay.
the fact that there was a dinosaur trafficker with a castle in the Netherlands who had the Ankylosaurus in his dungeon. So there's quite a cool reference there, I think. But the thing that's going to blow your mind, Brad, is
Here
Malaysia,
we go.
because I think Malaysia is actually setting the cards for the next Jurassic film, because they are
Ooh.
literally in a couple of months filming in Thailand, which is the neighboring country to Malaysia. So they could quite
Mm.
easily be used as stand-ins for the same location. And is it entirely possible that the story in Jurassic Park 7 could be set around the very same dinosaur market that these dinosaurs from Chaos Theory are being transported to? There you go.
So, so let's just get this straight. My theory about Scarlett Johansson being Brooklyn is getting stronger as the day goes on.
Yeah.
So I think we're getting there. But if we watch out and see she has a haircut, keep your eye out off the phone at my cousin Colin Jost and ask him if if Scarlett's got a haircut anytime recently. Yeah, I think that's could be probable. That would be amazing. I would love to see
There
that.
you go.
And the boat's going somewhere. These kids get on the boat. We should probably mention that at the end of the series, they get on this boat, but not Mateo. He's like, I'm not going. He's got a family to take care of. But he or the rest of them all get on this boat, and they're all going off somewhere wherever the broker wants. So
Mm.
Malta would be a great spot to at least
Ju-
a familiar spot to
I,
stop.
I don't want to add weight to your Scarlett Johansson theory, but it did break today that Glenn Powell turned down a role in the new film. So is it
It's
possible
true.
that Brooklyn was going to go and meet with Dave at some point in time?
uh That would be amazing. He would definitely be like the DJ in Malta. Like he can't get a paying gig anywhere else after Jurassic World because he was responsible for these kids, and then they all almost died and were cloned by Dr. Wu on this island. And then he couldn't find a job anywhere, so the only place that would take him is Malta, and they need a DJ for that place, and he's going to be doing his mixtape or whatever he had in that show. So
I'm down for it. I'm sold.
I love it. Any last topics? Because I got to wrap up here, but I
So
think I
I
feel
I
like we
think
mostly covered it all.
Yeah, the one thing I'd really like to touch on is the dinosaur free zone, because I think that as
Oh, true.
somebody
Yeah.
who's worked in the mental health field, I think that was a really interesting commentary on mental health, because there was kind of this back and forth conversation of Yaz isolating herself essentially from her trauma and then saying, no, it's a safe space where I can learn to cope with it. And I think that's such an important message, because when it comes to mental health, the core crux of good mental health is learning healthy and positive coping strategies. So when you go through a negative period of mental health, you know the things you need to do to keep yourself well. And I thought that this was a really well articulated commentary on it, because it challenged it and then immediately it explained why it was being done in the way it was being done. So I really enjoyed that. And I think that Yaz's PTSD, particularly, is something that the writers have always done an incredible job of respecting in both Camp Cretaceous and this show. So, really, I just wanted to say, sort of on that, as somebody who has literally worked in that sector and worked with people who have PTSD, thank you for actually respecting it and handling it with the gravitas and the sensitivity that it deserves, because I thought that was done really well here.
Yeah. I always love to give them credit for the way they handle these heavy topics, and they, especially that, and not caving and like breaking up Brooklyn and yeah, or not Brooklyn, Sammy and Yaz. Like they didn't.
What happened there?
There's that, yeah. There's a bigger relationship than we thought. No, but they didn't cave to any pressure or anything like that. They didn't backtrack on anything. So I thought that was really good.
Mm.
And yeah, the PTSD stuff. I thought the conversation surrounding that dino-free zone was just really interesting in general. It really brought me
Yes.
back to the
Yeah.
days of Jurassic Park where, they're all sitting down at that lunchroom table and they're debating the ethical, responsibility that they have with this island. And like, is it safe? Is it going to be good for, the world? Is it good for these dinosaurs? And I felt that with this place. It was like, well, you're secluding
Yeah.
yourself. You're quarantining yourself. Is that good for you? Is that good for the world? And then, but at the same time, it was like very good for Yaz. It absolutely worked in her, experience because, she was able to use that as a way to get better and to, deal with her trauma. And Sammy was kind of babying her, I guess, a little bit when it came to the situations, right? She didn't think she was strong enough and that she was ready for the outside world yet, but like
Yeah.
she really was, and she was working on herself. Now, ultimately, that place completely backfired, and it was not a dino-free zone, but I think the intentions were really nice, and it's interesting if we'll ever see that explored further because Yaz did mention that like places like this have been popping up all over the world. There's resorts that are just like, a place where you can go hang out on a vacation without dinosaurs. But there's also, facilities like this.
Whereas
where,
we'd be the cool kids going back to Isla Nublar.
Yeah. We'd be the ones like lying in our pockets with money trying to put a gyrosphere on our back, bring it back
Yeah.
to Bobby Nublar. But yeah, that is all I have, at least for this episode. We've surely got more episodes to come and more analysis. But Tom, thank you so much for joining me once again on this
Thank you for
coverage. It's been a
having me.
blast,
And
kind of
thank
watching
you
these
for
shows
making
early.
this possible. Thank you for trusting me to do this content with you and letting me work on the screeners with you. It's always a lot of fun.
You're the one blowing minds left and right, so it's the least I could do. But thanks again. It's been fun, and we'll have to plan our next one because we've certainly got a lot to talk about. Maybe eventually we'll break down the episodes further or something like that, and then hopefully right around the corner we'll have trailers and all kinds of stuff for another season. I think that's probably on the way fairly soon.
Well, we've got another season on the way. We might very well get Jurassic Park Survival this year, so I have a feeling that content is only going to be ramping up.
Anything you want to talk about before you leave? Anything you want to promote or say?
I feel like I've spoken about it for most of this episode.
Do you have anything?
Oh, shall I go against my entire schedule and just drop a date? I could just drop a date right now, Brad. I could say maybe on the 7th of June, and I'm just going to look at my calendar quickly and make sure I've got the date right.
It is the date now. You can't backtrack.
Let's double check this. Bear with me 1 second, friend. My calendar app is not loading. Yes. Maybe on the 7th of June you want to keep an eye out to the podcast feed because there might be more tales to tell.
Ooh, I like that. Until next time, my friend, stay safe and stay Jurassic.